At my mother's funeral, just as the priest finished speaking and people began standing up, a man I had never seen before grabbed my arm and whispered, "Miss, please don't go home with them. Your life is in danger." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. Funerals do strange things to the mind. I pulled my arm back, my heart racing, and stared at his face. He looked calm, serious, not drunk, not confused. Before I could say anything, he slipped a folded document into my hand and said quietly, "Please read this before you leave." My blood ran cold when I saw my name printed at the top. I had just buried my mother. She was the only person who had ever truly protected me. My father died when I was 12, and after that, it was always just the two of us. She worked endlessly, never complained, and made sure I finished school even when money was tight. When she got sick, I quit my job to take care of her. I thought that was what family did. What I didn't realize was that the moment she passed away, I became surrounded by people who had never cared about me at all. At the funeral reception, my relatives suddenly acted like they owned the place. My Aunt Clara cried louder than anyone, but her tears dried the moment she thought no one was watching. My Uncle Robert kept glancing around the room, whispering to people. My cousins avoided my eyes completely. Then Clara stood up, tapped her glass, and said loudly, "Now that my sister is gone, we should talk about what happens next." The room fell silent. She looked straight at me and said, "You've been living with her for years. We expect you to hand over any documents, bank cards, or valuables she may have left behind. We don't want misunderstandings." My chest tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said softly. Uncle Robert laughed. "Don't act innocent. Your mother had assets, and we know she trusted you too much." Then Clara crossed her arms and said something I will never forget. "You manipulated her. You always wanted everything for yourself." People stared at me. Some whispered, some nodded. I felt like a criminal standing beside my mother's flowers. I wanted to scream that I never asked for anything, that I just wanted my mother back, but my voice refused to come out. I lowered my head and stayed silent, the way I always had. That was when the stranger appeared again. He gently took my arm and guided me away from the crowd. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I was your mother's legal representative." I froze. My mother had never mentioned a lawyer. "She asked me to find you today and to make sure you were protected." We stepped into a quiet side room. Daniel handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a notarized document titled "Last Will and Confidential Instructions." My hands shook as I read. Everything was there. Dates, signatures, legal stamps. Daniel looked at me and said, "Your mother knew this would happen. She prepared for it." According to the will, my mother owned a private investment portfolio I had never heard about. She was also a silent partner in a logistics company. Everything, every account, every share, every property had been placed in a trust under my name alone, not my aunt, not my uncle, me. Then Daniel's expression darkened. He said quietly, "There's more." He told me my mother suspected she was being slowly poisoned, not enough to raise alarms, just enough to weaken her over time. She documented everything, doctor visits, symptoms, even conversations, and she had one name written again and again, Clara. My knees nearly gave out. Daniel explained that my mother didn't want immediate arrests. She wanted the truth exposed. She wanted witnesses. She wanted them to face what they had done. That evening, we returned to my childhood home. My relatives were already there, laughing, drinking, dividing my mother's belongings like trophies. When I walked in, Clara smirked. "Back already?" she said, "ready to cooperate?" I looked at her calmly and said, "No, I'm ready to listen." Daniel stepped forward and placed the documents on the table. This house, the accounts, and the shares in the company belong solely to her daughter. Silence fell over the room. Uncle Robert turned pale. Clara started shouting that it was fake, that it was impossible. Daniel calmly pulled out his phone and pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room, weak but clear. "I know you're poisoning me, Clara, and I forgive you, but the law won't." Clara collapsed into a chair. Minutes later, the police arrived. That evening, my aunt was arrested. My uncle was charged as an accomplice. The same people who called me greedy begged me not to testify. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I simply told the truth. Months later, I stood alone in my mother's house. Her favorite plant still sat by the window, just like she left it. She had protected me until her last breath. Some truths are unheard for a long time, until silence finally breaks.